Hi everyone, my name is Michelle and I am the knitter and knitwear designer behind meeshyfrazz Knits. If this is your first time tuning in, I have a newish podcast called Not the Worsted Knitting Podcast, where I share my adventures in things I'm knitting, things I'm designing, things I'm thinking about working on, any sort of fun patterns that I want to share, yarn that I want to talk about, or really anything going on, craft related or things I'm reading that I just want to share about. So today's video is going to be a slightly different format since I live in Western Washington and it's finally feeling like summer. Like today, what is it? Early June, and it's the first day. It's sunny and like 60 something degrees, which finally means I can stop wearing my actual sweaters and maybe bring out some of my summer wear. So with that in mind, you might be able to see off camera, I've got this little stack of some of my summer knits that I like and don't like to wear. I'm going to be going through basically my most and least worn items, and I'll share a little bit about my process, the yarns I used, and why I either do or do not like wearing said garment. I also have most of the yarns that I used, which I've collected in this little bin. It's actually quite funny. I didn't realize this. I really like color, like I love vibrant colors, but if you look at this color palette, with the exception of like one red ball of yarn here, this is pretty boring. It's pretty boring, guys. This is like, it's just white, blue, teal, aqua, but it's really just white and blue and like a little bit of gray and one hint of red, which is funny because the red, it's barely used and it actually kind of ruined the garment. It's not the color that ruined the garment, it's the yarn, but we'll get into that. So if you're interested in my hot take on all summer tops that I've enjoyed or not enjoyed, stay tuned. I will go ahead and start with my first one, which if you watched my last episode, you will already know a little bit about this. But the first top I'm going to talk about is the Moonset Tee by Seta. So with a little bit of editing power, we are going to switch to having me wearing it. Okay, first up, my Moonset Tee. I have my notes here, so if you see me looking off camera, that's why. It's just so I can stay focused on each item, make sure I cover everything that's important. That's Tuna. If you just saw him walk by, a little guy with a heart on his belly, that's my cat Tuna. Anyway, first up is the Moonset Tee by Seta. Like I said, if you watched my last video, then I did share all about this, but I will still go over all the details that I'll be talking about for each of these. This is a pattern by Seta. It is $6.50 on Ravelry, and that's in US dollars. I knit this in size 2, and I used US 3 needles. I believe her recommended needle size was size 2, and I had to go up to meet gauge. The yarn I used, which I will go ahead and pull out, is Lace Seta Mulberry by Lana Grossa, and that is in the colorway Ecru, and it is a fingering weight yarn. And the breakdown of this yarn is it is 35% silk, 35% baby alpaca, and 30% virgin merino wool. It's a really nice, really soft yarn. As I was mentioning in my last video, it might be a little warm for summer, but I will say where I live in the Pacific Northwest, early summers, this is actually kind of perfect because it is a little bit warm, but it's short sleeve. I also tend to run a little bit warm, so I could even see myself wearing this in fall and like early winter here and being really comfortable. Now, I will say though, with the alpaca and probably the merino in this, I don't know that I'm necessarily going to be wearing this in like August, but we'll see. We'll see how it goes. You never know what the weather's going to be like here, so it's kind of unpredictable. But back to information on the pattern. I used 4.75 balls of this, so 4 3/4 balls, 5 needed total, and I used 908 yards for my size, which is the size 2. This pattern comes in 9 sizes, and it ranges from a 36-inch to a 63-inch bust, and it has a recommended 4 inches of positive ease. So I'll try and get up and show this off a little bit. I'm hoping this will work. I don't know, if when I'm editing this, it doesn't look great, maybe I'll insert some B-roll of me walking around in each of these so you can see, but I think this does a pretty good job of showing off the pattern. What I love about this, I'm gonna move up, if you can see, this right here, this detail, this V-neck that comes to a point you knit together. I love this detail so much. This was actually what made me knit the pattern because it's just so different from everything else I have already. The drop shoulders are also a really nice touch. So you start in the back, you actually work on this band. You start in the back, you knit flat for a while. You do have to piece it together, so there are a lot of seams. Again, I mentioned this in my last video, you are going to have to break your yarn and reattach pieces a lot, so if you do knit this pattern, be okay with weaving in a lot of ends. But I think the end result is worth it. It just comes out to be a really nice, effortless kind of drop shoulder tee, which is great. And once you connect everything, like once you get kind of like here, then it's just smooth sailing. You're just knitting. It's fingering weight, so you're knitting in stockinette in the round for a while, but highly worth it. One modification I did make to this pattern, as I used a different yarn from what was recommended. So Ozetta recommends using Knitting for Olive Pure Silk, which I did not use because I had this in stash and it was the same exact weight. But because this has merino in it, it curled like crazy. Like it was just, the curling was out of control. So I added ribbing to the hems and the cuff, which I think turned out okay. I'll admit I like the look of hers better, where she just has kind of like, I think she did an I-cord edging on hers, and it's really clean looking, but there was just no way I could have done that with this yarn composition. And that's okay. I mean, I could see myself knitting another one of these. I actually was asking about the Knitting for Olive Pure Silk last video, and I got a comment from somebody telling me the process, and it made me more interested in wanting to try the yarn, because I had felt it in the store and I felt like it was a little bit scratchy, but I've heard that it actually blocks pretty well. The photos of it, I mean, the drape is beautiful, and it turns out it's a pretty ethical process that they use to make the silk, so it makes me think that I might buy that yarn in the future, and maybe I'll do another one of these. So yeah, I definitely recommend this pattern. In terms of the amount of wear, I did just knit this, like I just finished this a couple of weeks ago. However, I have already worn it, I think 4 times, maybe 5. I found myself grabbing for it, especially because it's been pretty cold and rainy here, and this has been kind of perfect for those transitional days where the morning starts out chilly, but it warms up and you can kind of start with layers, take off the layers, have this, and still be really comfortable. So yeah, Moonset Tee by Ozetta, recommend it, great pattern. Nothing much else to say about that one. So, power of editing, we will move on to my next one. All right, summer top number 2. This is the Caspar top by Colibri by Johanna. This top was $7.95 on Ravelry, and I knit this in size 1. This pattern comes in 6 sizes, ranging from 45-inch bust all the way to a 62-inch bust, and it has a recommended 11 to 14 inches of positive ease. I knit this in size 1, and I use the recommended needles, which are US 5 and US 8. I believe you actually start out with US 8, and then as you add more, you do kind of a series of rapid increases, and after that point, you knit with the smaller needle, I believe. Where is the yarn? I used Juniper Moon Farm Findley in Rappahannock. This This is the yarn caked up. It actually comes in balls, but I knit something else with this and it wasn't working out, so I had to cake it back up. And this is actually lace weight yarn, so there's a ton of it. And let me see. All right, that is the label. And the breakdown of this, it's extra fine merino wool and mulberry silk blend. I believe it's a 50-50 blend. Yes, it is. And it's really beautiful. Like this yarn is incredible. I bought this when our area was doing a local yarn store tour, and it was just one of the stores. I popped in and I saw this and I just thought it was really beautiful. I believe this is made in Italy, and it was just really stunning yarn, but I had it in my stash for a while because I'm like, what am I gonna do with lace weight yarn? Like, I bought 2 of them, and each ball is 798 yards, which is a ton of yardage, but again, lace weight. So I thought about holding it double. I tried that and I don't know, I didn't love it. But I came across this Caspar top and I thought it was actually perfect. Now, this Caspar top actually recommends using Lana Grossa silk hair, which is basically just a mohair. But I don't know about you guys, but I really don't want mohair in a summer top. Like, if I'm doing a summer top, the last thing I want is any fuzz. Like I said, I run warm and I don't want fuzz on me. And the 50% silk, 50% merino is actually quite perfect. So I will get up and show you, look at the drape on that. You can see it's stretched a bit over time, which is not really a surprise. I mean, that's kind of to be expected. So there is a little bit of a gap here in the armhole, but I have a bra that's similar in color and I feel like I can kind of get away with it and it's okay. And plus, you know, I'm not exactly trying to show off my armpits to people. So oftentimes I'm kind of walking around like this anyway. I'm going to turn around because it also has a fun little keyhole detail in the back, which hopefully you can see. And I just put a little button on there. I actually had it in my little button bin of like, I think it had come off of an old top that I had that fell apart and I was just saving it for something. This kind of was perfect. Let's see, did I miss any other information? I think I knit this pretty much according to pattern. Like the only modification I made was the yarn. Everything else I did just as recommended. So to show my dedication for this top, like I said, lace weight, and all of the edging is trimmed with I-cord, which took forever and ever and ever. And I actually did this neckline twice because I started it, I got to about here, and I was like, something looks really wonky, like it looks really wonky. And I had that moment where you have the conversation with yourself of like, maybe it won't bother me, maybe I'll keep going. Maybe if I block it out, it'll be fine. But it was like right here. There was no way I was gonna be okay with that. And it's lace weight and it's 50% silk, which means you see every detail. Like there's no hiding this. There is no hiding anything there. So I ripped it all out and I did it again. Second time was fine. The keyhole, there was like a weird little area with the seam, but fortunately I feel like the button covered that up. We'll see in editing if you can see it or not in the video, but that was more so where the I-cord kind of connected. I had a little bit of an issue there that I think I cleaned up pretty well. And then I think the only other thing that maybe I did different, I saw that I wrote a note that I did a 2-stitch I-cord bind off for the hem. So I'm guessing that maybe for the pattern, it might have been a 3-stitch I-cord recommendation. I chose to do the 2-stitch because I just wanted less bulk. And I'm really happy with how this sits. So I also think this ties in really well with me talking about the moonset tee. That was basically wool, alpaca, and a little bit of silk. Whereas this is just, what is it? Yes, just 50% silk, 50% wool. But I think the combination of the lace weight and the 50% silk like that 50-50 really made a difference in how it drapes, and it just drapes beautifully. Like there's no curling. I was really worried it was gonna curl, but after I blocked it, this is also the only garment that I knit that I actually hang on a hanger. Like no other garment I've knit will probably ever go on a hanger long term, but this one, because of the construction, it's reinforced here anyway, because you actually connect these two seams. I'm not worried about anything happening with it stretching out. Like, in fact, I actually think with the way it drapes, I actually think it probably is better suited to hang, because if I folded it, it's quite billowy, and folding it, I think, would just wrinkle it. So this guy hangs in my closet. I love it. It's so airy. I love the color here. One thing I'm kind of annoyed with myself about is I feel like a lot of my knits lately have been white. I keep knitting like creams and whites, and I want to knit more color. And so this beautiful vibrant blue is just, it's really nice. I love this one. So this I would rate really high. I knit this at the end of last summer. I actually knit it in August of last summer, and I wore it a few times last summer, and I've worn it once when we had a really warm day like a few weeks ago, but not for very long, and I layered it. But I think I will probably wear this a lot more. I'll be honest that with how bare it is on the shoulders, it's probably something I will more commonly layer than just wearing alone, but on really hot days, I can see myself wearing it over the summer. So we'll see how much wear it gets this year, but a great pattern, really enjoyed the knit, and even with all the I-cord, I think it was worth it. Okay, on to the next one. Okay, next up is my Summer Ella Solo by Les Knit. This pattern was $6.86 on Ravelry. This pattern, actually, I should say this top. I'm very conflicted about this top. I actually think the pattern is great. The pattern is really good. My gripe about this guy is my yarn choice, and we'll talk a little bit about that as I go through pattern details. So this pattern comes in 7 sizes, from a 34.5 inch bust to a 47.25 inch bust. So I will say it's not the most inclusive, which I didn't realize at the time when I bought this, which is funny because I feel like it could go up in those sizes and it wouldn't be terribly difficult. So I don't know, maybe in the future she will update that. But as for the pattern itself, it was quite easy to knit and quite enjoyable. The yarn I used Juniper Moon Farm Zooey. So this is what I have left of it. And yeah, what to say? So this yarn actually came highly recommended from a couple different people. I have a couple of knitter friends who said this was their favorite yarn for summer knits, and so I was actually really excited to buy it. There's Tuna. Say hi, Tuna. My cats Bagel and Tuna are currently, it's like playtime for them right now. So if you hear random gurgles or you see running of a white cat and an orange cat, that's what's happening, and it's just gonna happen. So we're just going to keep it moving. Okay, back to this yarn. So yes, so this yarn came highly recommended. So I was really excited to use it. So I excitedly knit this. I, at this point, had never knit with a summer yarn that I'd been super thrilled by. And I was hoping that this would change it. This, I didn't write down the composition, but I believe this is a linen and cotton blend. If it's not, I'll write on the description below what the blend is, but I believe it's linen and cotton. And up to this point, The only cotton yarns or linen yarns I used, I haven't been thrilled with, and you'll see a few of those as this list goes on. So really hopeful for this. So I knit size 2 of this pattern. I used US 2.5 and US 6 needles, which were the recommended needles. And I only needed 2.5 skeins of yarn for this, which, I mean, so I didn't use much yarn. I only used 740 yards, and this is sport weight. But yeah, so I'm gonna sit here and hopefully you can see it pretty well. I don't know how well it shows up on camera, but my gripe with this yarn is the yarn is biasing, which if you don't know what it means to bias, it's actually like slanting. If you look at it, like I feel like I can look down and I can even see it's going like this. Like it's, instead of the lines being straight down, it's literally like, and my research on why it's doing this is just based on the twist of the yarn. And I'm going to try not drop my yarn. But if you can see, so what I read, a lot of the people were saying if it's got a really high twist, that'll bias the yarn. I guess maybe it is. I didn't initially think it looked like it was super tightly twisted, but maybe it actually is. I don't know. I just don't like the way it looks. I feel like it looks messy. I feel like it looks handmade. And not just that, I actually really did not like knitting with this. It made my wrist hurt like crazy. So I cannot in good conscience recommend this yarn. Yeah, I don't even know, like, I don't know. I've got like half a ball left of this yarn and I'm like, what do I do with this? I don't want to use it. I should just donate it, honestly. If anybody else has used Zooey and had different results, please let me know, because like I said, this came highly recommended. I have 2 knitting friends who love this yarn, who've knit multiple tops in it. So I don't know if maybe I just got like a bad batch, but yeah, I don't know. I mean, it feels okay. I think my other issue with a lot of summer yarns is that they end up just feeling kind of heavy and weighted. And I don't know, it just doesn't feel great on me. Like I want something that's light and flowy, and this just feels kind of heavy. I mean, it's not as bad as some of the cotton tops I've knit, but it's not great. And yeah, I mean, can you see that? Can you see the way that that's twisted? Yeah, bums me out too, because I was really excited about this pattern. I think the lace work here, it's a top-down lace yoke. The lace is beautiful, the motif is beautiful, but I never wear this. I knit this, I think I knit this at the beginning of last summer, and I actually don't know if I've ever worn it out. I think maybe I wore it to one of my knit nights, like with my knitting group, but I don't think I've actually worn it out to anything besides that. I don't know. I don't love it. Kind of disappointing. So I can't super recommend. Again, no fault of the pattern, just the yarn I chose wasn't great. So let's move on to the next one. All right, next up on my list, this is number 4. This is the Magnolia Sweater. No, this is the Magnolia Summer by Camilla Vad. Going to stand up so you can see the main event here, which is this beautiful lace that's on the bottom. This is another top-down yoke pattern, and we will continue, which I don't know what it is about me and summer tops, but this is going to be a continuation of what was I thinking when I purchased the yarn, but great pattern. So a little bit about the pattern before we get into the details. I believe this is $9.15 on Ravelry. I knit size 3 of this pattern. I use the recommended needle size of US 4 and US 6. This pattern comes in 8 sizes with a bust size measurement range of 35.25 inches to 51 inches. And I couldn't find any information on ease. So I'm not really sure how much ease is intended, but I would say I've probably got about 4 inches total. Yeah, I think I probably have 4 inches of positive ease at the waist. At the bust, yeah, probably about the same. 2 to 4 is probably what I have. I love this pattern. I've knit the Magnolia and the Magnolia Bloom. So the Magnolia Bloom is it's the reverse, so it's the chunky sweater where all the lace is up here on the yoke. And then the regular Magnolia, the lace is on the bottom. And what's fun is when you buy the Magnolia sweater pattern, it actually has 2 patterns within it. The second one is this one, which is the Magnolia Summer. I actually think they're both the same. It's just that the Summer has shorter sleeves, but I haven't knit just the standard Magnolia, so I could be wrong. Yarn I used. What was I thinking? Rowan Felted Tweed. This is a sport weight yarn, and it is 50% wool, 25% alpaca, and 25% viscose. I think the viscose is actually just the tweedy bits. It's a beautiful yarn. The colorway is bottle green, which it's much more of a blue, but it's so scratchy. Like it's so itchy. It's not like rustic terrible itchy, but it's not something you want to wear when it's warm out. So if I'm being honest, this was a purchase where I had the pattern, I was going to my weekly knit night with my knit group, and I didn't have anything else to work on. And at the time, we were meeting up right next to this little yarn store. And so I popped in right before knit night, and this was the only sport weight yarn that she had, was the Rowan Felted Tweed. So I was like, yeah, okay, it's fine. I've always wanted to work with Rowan. It's gonna be great. Like, what could go wrong? It feels super soft. That's wonderful. Bought a whole bunch of it. And I mean, it's lovely to work with. It's lovely to knit up. It's a great yarn for a winter sweater. It's not at all what you want to wear in the summer, like at all. But that's on me. So for this pattern, I used 4.1 skeins, which comes out to 785 yards of yarn. So I didn't actually use a ton, but I think it's a bit of a shame because I love this pattern. I love the way it fits me. I think this top is beautiful. I love the color. It's just the yarn is a little bit itchy. So with that being said, I actually have worn this a bunch, but I wear it in the winter and the fall. It kind of works out because, as I've been saying, I run quite warm, and so sometimes, like, there's no way I could actually wear a sweater in this yarn that was long sleeve because I would just die of heat stroke. It would just be way too warm. Like, I could make a sweater out of this and go out in the middle of winter with no jacket and I would be perfect. It's quite warm. And I really think that's why it feels so itchy, just because I'm so warm in it, you know? I mean, it's like they say, like, your rustic yarns, when you're in the cold, you're comfortable. It's really only when you start to get warm that it gets a little bit prickly. So I think that's really the issue here. I would love to knit this pattern again. I just think this pattern is really pretty. All the Magnolia patterns are really pretty. I will warn you, I found several errors in the pattern, and I didn't really see any errata for them. It's easy enough to figure out, but if you do buy this pattern, read it carefully, read through it first, and just kind of like check your notes as you're going, because there are a couple places where the numbers don't really make sense, or there was like one area where an entire section was like copy and pasted back to back. So I don't know, maybe that's been fixed now. I did do this, I don't know, a couple years ago, but yeah, I mean, Nothing bad to say about the pattern, except it could probably go up in sizes a little bit more. Again, this is one of those patterns where at the time I didn't realize that it only went up to 51 inches for your bust. And I feel like you could expand that. So, but yeah, so Magnolia Summer, number 4 on the list. Happy with it, not happy with my yarn choice, but that's how it goes. Okay, number 5 on my list. This is the Confetti Crop Top by Knititude. This pattern is $8.03 on Ravelry. And let's see, it comes in 6 sizes. The bust measurements range from 32 to 54 inch bust. And it's another top-down yoke. And I actually really love the neckline here. I believe it's actually just a couple rows of garter stitch, and then you knit for a bit, and then you do a rapid increase, and then you begin your lace. And it's got super short sleeves where you literally just pick up to do ribbing and then you're done, and it's quite cropped. So as you can see, very cropped. I knit size 1 because this has a ton of ease. If I didn't say already, the recommended ease for this is 9 to 12 inches. And because I've got more of a narrow waist and larger hips, I oftentimes run away from really boxy fits because I just don't want to look like a tent. But I felt like being that this was cropped, I could do that, but I still went in on the smallest size so it wouldn't be crazy big, but it's still, I mean, yeah, there's still quite a bit of ease there. So, but being that it's cropped, it feels okay. Now, with that in mind, do I wish I'd made it longer? Yes. Did I have enough yarn to make it longer? Yes. Yes, I did. Did I make it longer? No. Why? Probably because I was lazy and just wanted to cast it off and thought I'd be cute and have a super crop top. But for the yarn I used, which this ball has really seen better days, oh my God. But this is Meeker Street, and the yarn is the Flower Shop, and the colorway is a Little Petty. And it's a fingering weight yarn, but it's definitely, it seems like a bit of a heavy fingering. This yarn is delightful. I believe this is done, I think this is a specialty yarn done by the Nifty Knitter, which is a shop in Issaquah in Washington. And I think it's one of the owners, I believe. If somebody knows, please correct me, but I believe one of the owners is the dyer for this yarn. And they have really great yarns. Like the yarns are quite soft and really vibrant. And this one, it's mostly undyed, but it's got some little speckles, which I thought was actually quite perfect for this top, being that it's called a confetti top, and it's just kind of fun and bright and very easy. So this only took 1.5 skeins of yarn, and that came out to 630 yards. The recommended yarn is Artemis yarn sock, so really just like any sock weight yarn, fingering yarn is probably fine. With that being said, yeah, try and get up so you can see. It's a very easy, effortless tee. I wear this all the time. I knit this a few years ago now, but I wear it every summer. Like, I'll go out, I'll do like a high-waisted skirt. The big thing is I need to make sure I'm wearing high-waisted bottoms to wear this because I just don't really feel comfortable wearing it otherwise. I've thought about ripping out the ribbing and knitting it longer, but at this point, it's been so long, I'm actually worried it wouldn't match anyway, and that's just not gonna happen. But this was a delight to knit. This was really, really fun and easy to knit. I think this took me like a week or two. The only issue I have, which I think is really just from how I block it, is this little bubble. I think it's just a combination of the tension changing from when the lace is done to when you cinch in for the ribbing. It creates kind of a little bubble on the sides there. Oh, there's my other cat, Boink. She is our resident old lady. She's in retirement mode now. She mostly likes to be left alone, but she's our little sweetheart. Back to the tops, because that's obviously why you're here. Yeah, so super cute, really nice neckline, top down yoke, very easy, a little bit of lace, then you're just knitting in the round. Pretty basic, pretty easy. Now, if I were to do it again, I might try and do something a little bit different with these sleeves, so I don't have this weird thing. Maybe I can block them differently. I recently bought some pipe insulation to put in my sleeves when I block my sweaters to help out some of the creases, because it was just kind of annoying me. And so maybe I'll try that with this and see if that helps at all. But yeah, confetti crop top. Okay, number 6 on the list is the Rai Rai Sweater. This is by Leanie Hoy. This is $10.12 on Ravelry, and it is another top-down yoke. This is another pattern where it's just bad yarn choice. I don't wear this at all. Like I made it and I immediately put it in the cabinet, and I don't actually think I've ever worn it. This made me wonder if yokes weren't my thing, but I think it's just, there's just something about, I think the color is not right for me. It's like a little too blue, a little too like icy blue. I thought I was being cute with this red stripe, but the red is too dark. It just doesn't work in a lot of ways. It's fine, it's a great top. It's got a split hem. Nothing wrong with the pattern. My yarn choice is not great. This pattern, it only comes in 6 sizes. So it ranges from a 32-inch bust to a 52-inch bust. And it's meant to have 0 to 6 inches of positive ease. I knit size 2, and I use the recommended needles, which is US 4. For yarn, what is this? Vidalana Linen Jewel in Oasis, and I used 1.7 skeins of this, or 680 yards. Here is, that's the tag for it. This was back when I was subscribed to Knit Crate, which, if any of you guys were a part of that, it was basically a yarn subscription where you'd get like 2 skeins a month. You wouldn't really know what colors you were getting, what type of yarn you were getting. And most of the yarns I got were not colors that I loved. That was when I learned that surprise subscriptions are not for me, because more often than not, I'm just disappointed. And that's probably just me being picky, but also if I were at a store, I would never have picked this color for myself, because if I'm being honest, I don't think it's a great color. And being that I said that, I know what you're thinking, Michelle. You just showed us this yarn that you picked out in the color Bayleaf, and it's pretty similar, but I think this is a little bit more muted. I think this is just too bright for me. Sorry, I have fuzzies all in my mouth from changing all of my tops. But anyway, so back to this yarn. So this is Linen Jewel, which is a 50% superwash merino, 30% linen, 20% silk. I was actually really excited to knit with this yarn. I did not enjoy knitting this yarn. It's quite splitty. Oh, there's Bagel getting into trouble now. If you watch my last video and continue to watch my videos, a running theme is probably going to be that Bagel gets into something every video, and it's just gonna happen. So we'll see how it goes. But yeah, back to the yarn. Not my favorite. I don't think I like linen yarn. I just really don't. And especially this one is just really splitty, and I don't know, it looks kind of messy. And then to continue the what in the world were you thinking, Michelle? The yarn I used for the stripe was KnitPicks palette in Salsa Heather, and I used 0.2 skeins, which is about 46 yards. If you're not familiar, I'm pretty sure this is like Peruvian Highland wool, but I was thinking like, it's just for the stripes. It won't matter, it'll be fine. But even just those little stripes are itchy. Like not crazy itchy, like I can wear, I've got a tank top on underneath and it's fine, but ugh, like just even looking at myself in this, do you ever just knit something and you look at it and you're like, it might be perfectly fine, but it is just not for me and it's not bringing me joy? That is this top. Like I don't know. It's fine. It's a great top. It would probably look great on a lot of people. It does not look great on me. So I never wear this. And when I say never, I literally mean I don't think I've ever worn this out. I think I wore it working from home once. And even then I would just look in the mirror and be like, meh. So it sits in my closet, unused, unworn. And yeah, I would knit this sweater, or I would knit this pattern again, just to kind of see if maybe in different colors it would look okay. Although I will say, I also don't think this cut is great on me. You know, I've got a pretty small bust. For those of you who are wondering, I'm saying what size I'm wearing, but I am a 34-inch bust. So hopefully that helps you in terms of sizing for your own garments if you're trying to see how something would fit you. But yeah, I don't know. It's not great. So that is the Rai Rai top. All right, next up on my list, number 7, the Sunday Tee by Petite Knit. I'm sure you are probably familiar with this pattern. This is a very popular pattern. Obviously, Petite Knit, everything she makes is popular. This is actually a really great top. I knit this many, many years ago, and I don't wear it as much as I should, and I don't know why. No, that's a lie, I do know why. I made it a little on the small side. I want to say I knit this right in the beginning of the pandemic, and I was trying to be super conservative with yarn I had in my stash. And what that meant was I went down a size smaller than I probably would have. This pattern comes in 9 sizes. It's $6.86 on Ravelry. The size ranges from 34¼ inch bust to 59.5 inch bust. So, okay, getting close, but you know. I knit this in size 1, and I used the recommended needle sizes, which are US 0, 1.5, and 2, or actually 2.5, sorry. The yarn I used is Polka Dot Sheep Iron Horse in the color Dusty Road, and Bagel just knocked something off of the bookshelf, so that's fun. This is a beautiful yarn, actually. I used every single scrap of it to get this thing done, and then when I was sewing in the ends, I actually had to use a similar color in stash yarn to finish up. But yeah, this is a fingering weight yarn. I believe, I don't know if it's 50-50, but it is a combination of merino and mulberry silk. So it's beautifully soft, and it's got a little bit of a sheen to it, which it's nice. It's a beautiful yarn. I used, like I said, all of my 2 skeins, which came out to 876 yards. And yeah, the pattern recommends using Vidalana Mercy, which is a fingering weight yarn I know nothing about, but I felt like this was a good substitution. This is a top-down yoke, and what's great about this is this detail here, and here and here, which is a folded over neckband and hem, but not with your standard like ribbed folded over. You actually knit it in stockinette, and then you do a single purl bump to show the edge, and then you do the other side and you sew it down. And that is actually where I had to use my other scrap yarn to finish up, which was fortuitous because you can't see it. But I think it gives a pretty clean edge. The downside of this is that, you know, if you look really closely, you can see it kind of bubbles a little bit. And that's just because you go from having 1 layer to 2. But that is also why there are multiple needle sizes on here. I believe this portion, at least the back side, is knit on like the US 0. So it's meant to be quite tight and fine. But I think it gives a really nice touch. And then, you know, your typical Sunday patterns, you've got the ribbing that starts out and kind of expands out across the yoke, which, you know, it's a beautiful detail. But you can see that I'm pulling down my sleeves because I just made it too small. Yes, I had enough yarn to make this in this size. Yes, it's pretty, but it's just a little snug for me. If I had knit this in size 2, I think I would probably wear it all the time, which is kind of a shame. And then also, I don't know if this oatmeal-y color is my color either. I think I really need to stick to like jewel tones, which is something I'm trying to be better about moving forward. Like I said, I feel like I keep knitting with these like creamy whites and pale colors, and what I really need to be knitting are jewel tones or colors that are a little bit better suited to my skin tone. So this one's kind of sad because it's a great pattern. It's very easy, great top, great yarn, never wear it. I have worn it, and in the earlier days I did wear it. You know, I probably also gained a few pounds from the pandemic, so that might have played a role in why after the pandemic I stopped wearing it so much. But yeah, bit of a shame. I don't think I'll frog it. I think I'll keep it and wear it occasionally, but I don't know. It doesn't get as much wear as it should. But that is the Sunday tee coming in at number 7. By the way, I'm talking about numbers, but these are not stack ranked in any particular order. Actually, the order that I'm doing them in is from most recent to least recent. So as I'm going back, these are the older knits that I've done. And so the number has nothing to do with how much I do or don't like it. Okay, we're gonna move on to the next one. And we're back with number 8, which, what did I just say about not wanting to wear any more cream colors? But, you know, here we are. Again, I knit this years ago. This is the Anker's tee, another petite knit pattern. I'm sure you're probably familiar with this one as well. It's another one that uses, this one uses like 1x1 ribbing in different placements across the yoke to give a really pretty pattern. And it's just another top-down raglan, knit in the round. This is $6.86 on Ravelry. The pattern comes in 9 sizes. It ranges from a 33.5 inch bust up to a 60.25 inch bust, and it calls for 0 to 2 inches of positive ease. The yarn recommended for this is Santa's Garn Lana. I used Lion Brand 24/7 cotton in Ecru. I did knit this in size 1. I should note that. I knit this in size 1 because I knew this yarn was going to grow. So if you were listening about my last petite knit pattern, I knit that in size 1 and I was upset that it was so small on me. But after I did the gauge swatch for this, I realized just how much this cotton was going to grow. This was my first time using 100% cotton, so I decided to go with the size 1, and that was the right call. Like, this is significantly bigger on me. I used 3.5 skeins, which came out to 651 yards. And I don't wear this one either. I don't wear this one because I feel like I'm wearing a washcloth, if I'm being honest. So I'll get up and show you. It's a really nice top. It's really nice, but it's heavy. It's 100% cotton, and it is, I believe it's worsted weight. Does it say? I don't know. I believe it's worsted weight, and I don't know, guys. Worsted weight cotton on a top. Don't love it. I don't know. I just don't think a lot of the linens and cottons are for me. I don't know. Maybe Santa's Garn Lana is what I need to try, because I see this all the time on a lot of the more popular patterns, and like, maybe there's something about that just drapes beautifully, doesn't feel heavy. I think that's my biggest problem, is just, it's heavy. Like, this is meant to be a lightweight summer tee, but it's heavy. It's so heavy on me, and it just, as the day goes on, it just kind of like falls, and it's just, ugh. Like, even, I don't know. I just don't like it. So this is another one that I don't wear. Yeah, there's a bit of a theme here. Basically, I pick bad yarns and then I don't wear them, and then they just sit and nothing happens with them. One thing I wanted to mention about this, which is the Anker summer shirt, as well as my last top I was wearing, the Sunday tee, both by Petite Knit, is that neither of these patterns have short rows in them, which is kind of strange. I mean, I think it fits okay to wear. It's actually not super noticeable that there's anything going on, but I will say I do feel like it hits lower in the back and it's higher in the front, which, you know, I feel like a pattern like this, you could have easily added short rows, even in between. Like in the back, you probably could have added them in here and you'd never notice it. Or you could even add it right at the beginning. I don't know. If I knit either of these again, I would probably add short rows, but I don't know if I'll knit either of these again. I don't know. I just, not exciting. Yeah, so that's the Anker summer shirt. Okay, and I'm back with a bonus. This is a bonus top that I'm adding because I feel like it actually has no category at all in my wardrobe, but it is short sleeve. So this is gonna come in as a bonus summer top if you're feeling inspired. This guy right here, I'm gonna move up so you can see it in all its glory. This is the Professor Meow sweater. This sweater is by Claire Slade and it's $4.99 on, so the pattern is on Ravelry, but I think you have to buy it through KnitPicks. I got it here from this book, 9 Lives by KnitPicks. And it's basically just a whole bunch of cat patterns. So that's the sweater pattern. If you're new here, I mean, if this whole video wasn't a giant indication, I kind of love cats, like just a normal amount. So yeah, this is my Professor Meow sweater. I knit this back in 2017, I think. This is knit flat and seamed, obviously, because it's intarsia. The back is just gray. Nothing's going on in the back. Everything's in the front, and you've just got this big old intarsia cat on the front. This pattern comes in 9 sizes. It ranges from 32.5 inches all the way to 64.5, and it's meant to have 3 to 4 inches of positive ease. I knit this in size 2. I use the recommended needles, which are US 10.5, which is great because this knit up super fast, even when you're knitting it flat. And I use the recommended yarn as well. This is actually the first pattern out of all of these where I used the recommended yarn. I don't have much left of it, but I used KnitPicks Wonderfluff in the colors, this is Finnley Heather, and then this is Cobblestone Heather. I used 3 skeins or 426 yards of the Finnley and half a skein or 171 yards of the Cobblestone. This yarn is beautiful. It's like one of those blown yarns. I don't actually know the composition of this, but I want to say it's wool and then like a nylon for the tubing, but I'll put underneath if that was wrong. But yeah, it's a delightful, very soft, very squishy yarn. So yeah, what can I say about this pattern? I think why this becomes a bonus, I don't know what to say about this pattern, is because it's quite a warm woolly yarn, but the pattern calls for very short sleeves. It's kind of weird to wear. I don't love the way it looks on me. Like, it feels like a very basic top up here. Like, I feel like the neckline could have a little bit more interest. Like, maybe I could have added a neckband here. I think that would have been nice. And then I feel like we could have picked up here, and instead of me just doing ribbing, I wish I had just knit full sleeves. Now, I didn't because I didn't have enough yarn for it. I think that's why I just did the ribbing. But I mean, that's what the pattern calls for. You knit the front and you knit the back separately. You seam it You seam it here at the arms, and then you pick up here to do the ribbing. So it would be very easy for you to pick up and just knit full sleeves. And honestly, it'd be very easy for you to add a neckband. But I didn't do that. And so I never wear this. I've worn it a couple of times, but like, I gotta say, even just sitting here, it is right on my armpits. Like all of this Wonderfluff yarn is just like, it's right there and it's real uncomfortable. So I just don't wear it, even though it's really funny and crazy. I will also note, not only is it in Tarja to add the cat, it also uses duplicate stitch to add on the eyeballs, and then you do embroidery to add on the whiskers, which is quite easy. It's not difficult at all. Like the pattern was very easy to do. And like I said, I knit this in 2017. I think this was the first time I did Intarsia, and if I'm being honest, when I did this pattern, I didn't even know Intarsia was like a big deal. I was just like, oh, it's got a fun cat on it. Oh, okay, I have to like twist my yarns when I switch colors and keep some in the back, and like, it was fine. So sometimes I think knitting techniques seem scarier than they really are just because everybody's hyped it up so much. Like if you just kind of go in blind and just be like, I can do this, you can do it. And yeah, it turns out great. Just don't be like me and knit it short sleeve. If you're gonna do this and use the recommended yarn, for starters, maybe give yourself a bigger armhole. And then yeah, knit it long sleeve. Because, you know, if I knit this long sleeve, I would probably wear this a lot more, which is kind of a shame. But yeah, so that's my bonus. That's my bonus guy. All right, so that was the roundup of my most and least worn summer tops. If you've stayed up until now, thank you so much for watching. If you have any questions or comments about any of the patterns or the yarns I talked about, please leave a comment below. I would love to hear your thoughts on that, especially if you disagree with anything I used or any of the opinions that I have. Sometimes maybe, you know, maybe it comes down to just like a weird batch of yarn or like misunderstanding something and not realizing. So I'd love to hear your thoughts on that. But thanks so much for watching. If you want to get in touch with me, you can find me at meeshyfrazz on Instagram and Ravelry. I am meeshyfrazzknits.com, or you can email me at meeshyfrazz@gmail.com. Also, if you watched my last video, then you'll know that I've got a tester call coming up for a sock pattern coming soon, as well as I will have a secret test call coming for an exclusive pattern for Flock, where I'm doing a collaboration with Hazel Knits. So if you want to stay up to date with my test calls, please sign up for my newsletter. There will be a link down below in the description. Otherwise, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye.